What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. So the last week I've had this 2023 Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek, and I've driven it all the way up here to Michigan. So I've already driven it like 700 or 800 miles, and I still got to get my way back to North Carolina. But as you can see, it's a little muddy. I've had some fun on some dirt trails. Now we are here in the winter. We got a little bit of snow and ice on the ground and more dirt. So we're going to talk about the Rock Creek, how it is as far as an off-roader, and then how Nissan in general has stepped up the Nissan Pathfinder. So as I get out of all of this mud, overall it's been a pretty sweet vehicle to drive for being more on the rugged side. It's not crazy for highway cruising. It's actually pretty comfortable. Doesn't get quite as good gas mileage as the Platinum we were able to take up here a couple months ago. Same with the Infiniti QX60. This one we were averaging closer to about 22. On the Platinum we were getting closer to like 26, 27. However, with that said though, this has been pretty nice and it looks pretty rugged. I think Nissan did a good job just giving you a pretty cool design for it, and it certainly looks good with all the mud, the ice, and a little bit of that snow. So let's take it for a spin now and talk more about it. So then sitting in the Pathfinder, I'm gonna go ahead and put us into the mud and rut. And I love how we can now get the front camera and that passenger side front tire. So I can really kind of view what's going on. If I go in reverse, that swaps to a backup camera, but I can still see that one. And I am certainly in some mud. Very wet mud, I wasn't expecting that. But then going back into drive now, we got that front view and then we can watch that corner. It's really easy to maneuver this. And one thing I'm impressed with, the tires this comes with are really, really good. You can pretty much kind of drive over a lot for being not, you know, Jeep Wrangler or something like that. This is a crossover unibody construction. However, it still is pretty capable. And even on these bumps right now, while it's not crazy and obviously it can do a lot more than just a dirt trail here, it's nice to see how solid it feels. It doesn't feel like it's jittering all over the place or anything like that. It still feels like a rugged vehicle that you can hit the bumps with and you're gonna be okay. It's not gonna be just shaking all over the place or anything like that. So I feel like Nissan is kind of stepping things up a lot, and especially since maybe 2021. If you look at now the 2022 Pathfinder, that is the new generation. That's when this came out. This one now for 2023, we got the Rock Creek edition. And I think Nissan has taken some bold leaps into making something above and beyond. They're making something a little bit more special, something that's fun to drive, fun to play with. And I think they're really doing something pretty good with that. I wish I had more off-road trails to take this on. In the full review, I went down a nice little dirt trail, and it did it well. I had some up and down areas, some mud, and obviously some mud. You can see the mud all over it. But through the mud and everything, it seemed to manage torque pretty well. The power delivery was going through the four wheels pretty smooth. And I like how Nissan kind of made it to where you can still drive it on road, do the normal, the family stuff. It is a 3-row vehicle, and you can still drive it long distances. Obviously, we made it here to Michigan, and it wasn't a fatiguing drive. And it's just an easy car to drive. And as far as normal driving with it, I mean, you have great visibility, great get up and go. On premium gas, this makes about 10 more horsepower in torque comparing it to the normal one. So it's pretty cool to see that they've tuned it up a little bit to give you just that little bit extra power. And with the 9-speed transmission, it delivers the power well. It's a very smooth delivery, and it doesn't feel like some crossovers that may have like a CVT transmission or something like that. And when you're just in the normal auto mode, getting up to speed and everything, it's nice and comfortable to drive. And the suspension also, that's a big thing. So this has an off-road tuned suspension, and when you hit those bumps off-road, you can really tell how it's just really planted. I like that aspect. The only downfall I would notice, I think throttle response could be greatly improved. Like right there, not coming to a full stop on just a turn, slowing down and then stepping on the gas a little bit, it takes a second to go. So that's a little annoying. I would definitely put like a pedal commander or something on this. But other than that though, when you shift between reverse and neutral, there's a little bit of a delay as well. As we get off of this road, not really many off-road situations I can find with this. Ground clearance is pretty decent. It probably could be a little bit better. However, with the few things that I've been able to do with this, just that little dirt trail there, the dirt one at my house, I didn't have any issues with the overhangs, ground clearance, or anything like that. So I think it's nice that at least has that inch extra ground clearance comparing it to the standard vehicle. So you can't really complain too much with that. But hitting bumps and stuff like right now, it just feels really, really solid. I think that's definitely the biggest selling point with what the new Pathfinder has to offer. Actually, we got a little bit of snow I can take, so now we can drive this a little bit on some snow. So putting it into the snow mode, obviously this is like nothing, just some snow on the flat ground. But in the snow and everything, traction seems pretty good, at least just doing something really small like that. And even when you floor it and everything, it doesn't like spin out or anything. So I think the traction management, and I wish I could do some crazy things with it, but there's just nothing I'm able to hit with where I am. But at least trying to just feeling out the traction, you can tell how it does do a good job not letting you spin. Like, I was just flooring it right now, and even when I slam on the brakes, it skids a little bit, but it doesn't like let me just spin out getting out of the snow. So I think Nissan's doing a good job just kind of dialing it up, giving you that aspect. And even if I just come in quickly and turn, it spins a little bit like normal, but very controllable. So then as we get back onto normal roads and everything, do you guys think Nissan is doing what it takes to create a more fun aspect around their brand? Do you think they're taking all the stops and just giving you something that's much better than before? I think they really are stepping it up. Of course, we got the new Nissan Z coming out. 2023, they're still making the R35 GTR. So it seems like they still have some enthusiasm there to create something pretty cool. So I feel like a new GTR will come. Obviously the new Z is probably gonna be here for a decade or more like the old one. And then with the rest of their lineup, I think the SUVs especially, the Rogue, I mean, that turned into just kind of a basic economy crossover to a really nice version of a crossover. It's a really good option. The Nissan Pathfinder, I feel like, is kind of their flagship SUV just because it has a really, really solid feeling to it, and it's a pretty planted type of car. And then, now that I find a random dirt hill, we'll just try to do something interesting with it. We'll go into sand mode and see what it does on this. But just going straight over it, you can use the cameras and everything just to do it, and in the sand mode and everything, I mean, traction just does a good job at least letting the power do what it needs to do. And of course, you know, we're kind of testing like the bare minimum, the basic aspects, but at least it kind of gives you a taste of how when you do encounter any sort of terrain that isn't ideal, the car still can manage everything. And articulation and stuff for being just kind of basic and not crazy SUV aspects. You know, it lets you do it without just spinning. Sometimes even something that small, when you hit them, you can tell like one tire loses all the traction. So at least with this, you know, I think it does a good job managing it. And from what I've seen with other off-road videos, it could take a second to figure it out, but then the power picks up pretty nicely to the tire that needs a traction. So it seems like it's pretty well rounded for an off-road focused family crossover. The off-road suspension on road, I will say, is a little bit more floaty. The Platinum that we had definitely was a little bit smoother on road. But even this one, now that we go back into the off-road modes and everything, I mean, honestly, it just feels so solid when you are off-road. We're in the snow and in the grass right now, and even sliding in a turn like that, it does a pretty good job maintaining traction, maintaining grip, and it's kind of something you can have fun with. You can have some casual, good, fun off-roading with the new Pathfinder Rock Creek, and you really just don't lose any of that solid aspects from other brands. You get a pretty high-quality, solid vehicle for a pretty good price point. And I think they're really just stepping it up and then just getting up to some speed, nice and peppy. So comment below, what do you guys think of Nissan? How are they doing lately? Do you think they're doing enough things to really ramp up the brand to be one of the top 3 of the Japanese brands? Or do you think they're still kind of that middle of the road, not the best, not the worst? I think they are getting closer and closer to being up there with the Toyotas and Hondas and really giving you a really good array of cars. I think their sedans still need a little bit of work. The newer Altima doesn't feel quite as solid as a Camry for the same price. So they're getting there, but I think with their SUVs, I think they've got there. I think the Pathfinder especially, hopefully I'll check out the Armada and a little bit more seat time in the Rogue, but I think their SUVs are really, really taking it up a notch. And then their sports cars obviously are pretty good. And then just those sedans are almost there. But anyways, comment below, what do you guys think of Nissan? How do you think they're doing with the current generation? I've enjoyed driving this one. It's been a pretty cool SUV to cruise with. Not too bad for long haul trips. And it really has been a pretty well-rounded vehicle. Finishing it up, we're on a gravel road now. It doesn't feel any different than when I was on the street. So it's just cool how you really can just drive this gravel, dirt, and just kind of use it for everything. Right there, traction control kind of limited it a little bit as I spun in a turn. But really, it feels like such a well-rounded option that you can kind of drive over anything, and it's pretty smooth. And then now onto a gravel area with a little bit of snow and ice on it. I don't know if there's a traction control button, so we can't really turn traction control off, I don't believe. But when you are in this, yeah, it doesn't really let you do a donut or anything. But, you know, this is a car that when it is snowing out, when you're in any sort of inclement weather, it's going to handle it really, really well and let you be confident driving it all over the place and just handle anything. But I think that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content. I'll see you all in the next video.